What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Team 69 channel. My name is Midget, and in today's video I'm going to be talking you through a basic yet very effective tank class build for Elder Scrolls Online 1 Tamriel. The reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of people, when I do live streams for this, ask me what kind of class I use. I have released videos in the past of tank classes and destruction staff classes, but this build is the one I mainly use for this character. So what I'm going to do is give you every single step-by-step of this tank class and how effective it can be in group dungeons, PvP, whatever you want to do it for. It is quite effective all round. Like I say, it's basic yet highly effective. So first off, I want to start with the sword and shield themselves. One's a mace and one obviously is the shield, and they're both part of the endurance set. And the reason why I've got the endurance set is because it gives me a bonus boost of 1,540 health plus an extra 186 stamina recovery. Obviously the health is really useful for when I'm taking damage, and the stamina recovery is useful for like calling shield, like personal shields and stuff, other abilities. But I'll get into that in a sec. For armor, I decided I was using the Way of the Flame armor set, but I recently changed that to the Black Rose armor set because I've recently started to acquire the Pirate Skeleton monster set, which is what you can see obviously my head and shoulders are. Basically for the skeleton set it's quite decent because for one piece, which would be the shoulders, it gives you 1,867 physical resistance and 1,867 spell resistance, and for the second piece, which was the head, it gives me a 6% chance to transform into a skeleton and gain major protection and minor defile for 12 seconds, and also reduces all damage taken by 30%. So any way I can get some physical resistance against attacking enemies, and obviously reducing all the damage I take by 30% is really awesome. Just keeping myself alive and keeping the bosses tanked onto me. As for the Black Rose set, I use 3 pieces of that, not the full set obviously because I'm using the head and shoulders for the other set, but one piece gives me 772 max health, a second piece increased that by 990, and then for the third piece I get 900 max stamina, which is also again useful for calling in like the personal shields and the skills that go with that, and using the bar to the best of abilities. Also for sort of provisioning wise, when I go into PvP or for dungeons, I use a purple recipe called Purple Rabbit in Preserves, and this gives me an increase of 5,000 health and 6,000 stamina for 2 hours, which is obviously much better than just taking a bread, which only increases your health. So it basically it doubles the magicka health and stamina bar when I take this Rabbit in Preserves recipe. When it comes to skills that I use for sword and shield, I'll just talk you through it here. You can see it on the screen as I've not actually moved anything yet. The first skill I use is Hardened Armor 4, and obviously it says I increase my major resolve and major ward, increasing physical resistance and spell resistance by 5,280 for 20 seconds, and also gives me a damage shield equal to 10% of my max health for 3.5 seconds. So again, when I'm tanking, I press X, I get a gold bubble around me, and it increases any damage I can take and gives me a shield. I also use Absorb Magic in the Sword and Shield abilities bar, and this is something that says it bolsters my defences by absorbing up to 13,963 damage from the next spell critical cast at you and healing you for 14% of your max health. And this also increases the block by 8% and reduces the cost of the block by 8% as well, so I can do more blocking with the shield up just using left trigger and take more damage with this ability. I also, for this class, use Igneous Shield 4, which is something where I can call the earth to my defences, creating a damage shield around me and nearby allies that absorbs 4,320 damage and also absorbs 100% of my own additional damage. So if I've got people with me in like a group of 4, I can press B, whatever obviously slot you equip this to, and it brings up like a stone wall around you and the allies around you as well, so you can protect everybody for about 20 seconds, which is pretty cool. My left bumper button is another one from my heavy armor class actually, and this is intensify your physical resistance to gain major resolve and major ward, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 15 seconds. And this also grants me immunity to knockback and disabling effects by 5 seconds, and each piece of heavy armor worn increases the duration of this ability by 5%. Now I use a full set of heavy armor, so this is increased by 25%, which is pretty awesome. So obviously it just amplifies how much damage again I can take, and sort of just like, you know, have the enemy attacking me whilst all the people around me are doing the damage to the enemy. Inner Fire is my last of the sword and shield abilities that I have, and this is something that ignites the fires of hate in the enemy's heart, dealing 1734 magic damage and forcing them to attack me for 15 seconds. So this is something where I'll press it, I'll run towards the main boss, and I'll get them to tank onto me 15 seconds, and it only concentrates all its attacks on me, which leaves the other 3 people in my group available to go and attack and do what they can damage wise to the boss. And every 15 seconds I'll just press it again so it's still on me. It also grants me a 15% chance that allies targeting this enemy can activate the Radiate synergy, dealing 1375 magic damage to a target enemy over 2 seconds, and then causing the target to explode for 4027 magic damage to all enemies nearby. Now basically it's a big red bubble that comes out of me when they activate this synergy, and it is like a little nuke, and it sort of like sends out the big red bubble and attacks every enemy with magic and fire damage for 2 seconds, which is pretty cool. And then for my ultimate I use Magma Shell, and this is something that grants all 4 of the people, including myself in the group, a damage shield that can take it can protect me for 3% of my max health and dealing 576 flame damage to nearby enemies for 10 seconds. The allies gain a damage shield of 101% of their max health, so they can sit and take damage for quite a period of time, about 9 seconds, which is quite good for this game. And obviously the more damage they can take whilst they're dealing damage to the enemy, the quicker the bosses and stuff get taken down, which is also really cool. For my second class of this, I use a staff. And the reason why I use a staff is because obviously with a tank I use sword and shield, and it's got to be close range, whereas my destruction staff, I've got to take something from far out, I can use the destruction staff. And personally I use a shock staff, just because it's more effective with its heavy attacks. And the reason again I use the staff for the heavy attacks is because in my champions points, in my tenacity class in the lover, which is in the green champion point skill tree, you can increase tenacity to restore magicka and stamina for every heavy attack you deal. And so far mine's on a 15% recovery, so if I do a heavy attack it will restore half of my bar, either for a heavy for a stamina or a magicka attack, and fill the bar up for that, which is really handy for when I'm calling most of these things in. But like I said, the first thing I'm using is Magma Shell. No, I'm not, sorry, ignore that. I'm using Cinderstorm even. This is basically a casting thing. It's an area of effect, which is quite cool. And it summons a Scorching Ash Cloud to the target location, dealing 466 flame damage to nearby enemies every 1 second. It also reduces enemies' movement speed by 70% for 1.1 seconds if they leave the area. And I have the effect where it's morphed, and rather than just being an ash cloud where it produces like hot clouds, it also produces lava. So it damages a lot more than it says when I cast to a group of enemies. Secondly, I use Draw Essence 4. This is something that channels dragonic energy to suck in the air around you, dealing 130 magic damage to nearby enemies and healing you for 108% of the damage caused. After 2.5 seconds you exhale fire, dealing 2619 flame damage to nearby enemies and restoring 10% of the ability's cost for each enemy it hits as magicka. So again, I can call this in to restore my magicka bar back for every enemy it hits, and I can get back near enough a whole health bar after I cause massive damage to the people around me, which is very, very handy, especially if the healer in the group isn't too good, so I can keep myself alive quite easy. I also use Burning Talons, and this is like a crowd control system if you like. It just basically clamps the enemy to the floor for 4 seconds and does 2100 flame damage. This also has a synergy, so if I call it in and the ally runs up to it and presses B and Y, or if you're on the PlayStation, circle and triangle, the claws can implode and deal magic damage for 3408% damage, which is extra on top of what it's already causing, which is pretty good. Then I use Flame Slash, which is in my dragonic skills, and this is it's basically a lava whip as such. You lash an enemy with flame, dealing 3275 flame damage, and if I strike an immobile or stunned enemy, I can knock it off balance by 5 seconds and also deal 4906 flame damage extra and 7278 over 2 seconds of healing, which is pretty cool. Again, if I've not got a good healer with me, this flame whip does healing and a lot of damage at the same time. And the only destruction staff single ability that I use is Shock Clench. And this is something that I launch at an enemy and deal 1996 shock damage and an additional 2715 shock damage over 8 seconds. And it also stuns the target for 2.5 seconds and deals 1716 shock damage to nearby enemies. So not only do I attack one enemy for near enough 5000 damage, I can attack enemies around it as like a little shockwave, dealing let's just 1716, which is awesome. And then eventually I will be upgrading my ultimate for my tank skill line to the sword and shield ultimate. But for the time being, I do use the ultimate for the destruction staff. And this is basically create a cataclysmic storm at the target location that builds after 2 seconds, then lays waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 3506 shock damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. And this is the non-morph version as well. When it morphs, it does a hell of a lot more damage, and area of effect is fantastic, and it's really good. Again, if I'm crowd controlling, it can take out quite a lot of damage on the enemies I'm sort of attacking or trying to help attack and deal damage to. And I think that is pretty much it, to be honest with you guys. I will put up some gameplay of this character at some point, but like I say, I just want to talk you through my class and what they can do. So like, I'll just talk you through this at the minute. I've got some shields, as you can see. These are the shields I was talking about, and they're pretty decent. That's basically what I look like when I'm tanking, and nothing can get through to me. As long as I've got a decent healer with me, I can take a lot of damage. So it's pretty cool what I can do to protect people and protect myself and keep others alive. So if you really wanted to get used to a basic yet very effective tank class, this one does work in PvP as well, so you'll be quite pleasantly surprised by how much damage you can take. Obviously you can get yourself killed if you go around on your own and you're not in a group of people, but if you're with a group of people, and quite a good group of people, you can do a lot of distraction tactics and get the other enemies killed as quick as you can. So hopefully guys, you did enjoy this video today. Like I say, I will do some more videos like this soon. I'll probably live stream this either today or tomorrow, because I haven't done a live stream this week. I missed my GTA 5 live stream last night, but that's because I had a few things come up and I didn't really fancy getting on to play GTA, unfortunately. But yeah, like I say, hopefully you did enjoy this video today guys, and I will see you in the next video. Make sure if you're new here, subscribe, hit the like button below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.